The St. Louis Blues fell to the Buffalo Sabres, who have now won 9 straight games. Let's talk about what just happened.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Blues. I'm your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The St. Louis Blues just fell to the Buffalo Sabres on home ice 4-2. Sabres have now won 9 straight games, one game away from a franchise record for Buffalo, and we need to talk about the game. Questions about Binnington. I'm assuming that he will play against Colorado coming up on New Year's Eve, but at the same time, would things have been different if Binnington was in net? And what a goal. And yes, I am talking about Adam Juracek today. Prospect talk is always exciting and something good, but let's focus on the game that we just saw. The Buffalo Sabres defeated the St. Louis Blues 4-2. I'm frustrated, very frustrated. At the end, there was an opportunity. And I want to say this as nicely as possible. I am Jimmy Snuggerud's biggest fan, okay? However, that pass that Tomer had to Snuggie was perfect, and if Snuggerud just tipped it in, we could have been going to overtime. They would have probably still lost in overtime considering how the Blues play in OT, but at least it would have been a point. It is such a frustrating loss for the Blues. Bushi taking that penalty at the end of the game for interference, that's not acceptable. And I know that, listen, there was a lot that transpired in this contest tonight that was ugly. I'm just frustrated with the very end of the game. I don't know why the Blues find themselves in a position to where they have the lead and then it gets tied and then they regain the lead and then it gets tied and then they just can't hold on to their leads. It's very concerning and very frustrating. This team, it looks like they had no energy in the final frame at all until the very end. And I'm watching this hockey team and I am confused. I'm confused about what I am seeing take place on the ice because this is a team that should be motivated. They should have all of this motivation to beat Buffalo. You know why they should have motivation to beat Buffalo? Because Buffalo, I know they're one of the hottest teams in the NHL at the moment, but they're still a beatable team for the Blues. And for whatever reason, you know what the St. Louis Blues do? They do when it's against beatable teams? They don't show up. Folks, we have seen this time and time and time and time again. Defeated the Predators 3-2. That's awesome. That's a good 2 points. Now get back to work against the Sabres. And I do want to say that this game, though, it was a little bit different than the usual pattern that I brought up to begin with. The Sabres did score first, and then Schenner was able to score. Snuggie was able to score all in the first frame. And that was it. There was no more scoring for the Blues. And Zach Benson's goal that he had in the beginning of the third period, I mean, that was such a great goal. Got right past Joel Hofer. But still, I mean, the Blues had so much opportunity, but they were getting outshot point blank period in the final frame. And my frustrations with this game, it's deeper than, well, the Blues are a better team, because are they a better team against the Sabres right now? And the answer is no, at least not tonight. I have to give Alex Lyon a lot of credit for how he played in net tonight against the Blues, but it's not like the Blues had many shots on goal. And Robert Thomas had a couple opportunities shorthanded, wasn't able to connect with the back of the net. You know, it's interesting because I talk about the Blues every single day, and being a fan and being somebody that talks about them on a daily basis, I feel like these type of losses infuriate me more than the type of losses that you would have against a better team in the NHL. Like, if the Blues end up losing to Colorado on New Year's Eve, in an ugly manner, I'm not going to be as upset because Colorado is insane. But a game like tonight, they should have been able to try to at least be a little bit more competitive. I am so frustrated. Now, I will give credit to Robbie Fabry because I thought he actually played his best game tonight. I know in the one game against Nashville a couple weeks ago, he played phenomenal hockey. I do think tonight was his best game. I didn't even talk to you about P.U. Suter. I'm still sick. I apologize. And then the Blues' social media account was like, oh, this is a first time in a long time without a 22 Suter on the ice. And I'm like, yeah, bring back Ryan, but they won't. No one will. The point is, I am frustrated after tonight's loss. And you know what? Good for Buffalo. I'll give credit to where credit is due. Good for Buffalo. I mean, this is a team that was not supposed to be a good team. And they ended up turning things around, and they have been insane. I mean, they're 20-14-4. The Blues are 15-17-8. So yeah, I guess on paper, the Sabres, man, it's kind of crazy actually. Like, who would have thought that that would have been happening, honestly? But again, I mean, you have Lindy Ruff, I mean, as head coach, like, I guess he's doing better, right? But man, this is so insane for the Sabres. They might beat a franchise record if they win their next game. They're playing for so much more than the Blues right now because they have momentum. And I've watched a lot of Alex Lyons when he was with a different team. And what I can say is that he actually had one of his better games tonight. But Buffalo, man, I am so surprised. If you told me that the Sabres were going to be this type of team that would have been competitive, I would have been like, oh, what do you mean? But they really have turned things around. And Zach Benson, who was able to score a game in tonight's contest, I mean, this is a player that I wanted so badly in the draft. Owen Power, I actually was in a media scram with him about a couple months back. And this is a player that really did believe in his organization. So I'm not surprised with how they're playing. I mean, Rasmus Dahlin, again, you can't be surprised with him. But there's a lot of good players actually on the Sabres. So I don't know. I mean, do I still think that the Sabres are a beatable team? Absolutely. But I do think that the Sabres have a lot of momentum right now, which is why they're so interesting to watch. I don't want to say entertaining because that's giving them a lot of credit. Interesting is a better way to put it because Buffalo is interesting right now because they're the little team that could. And you kind of can't stop watching it. But at the same time, if the Blues played a little bit better, they would have maybe, I don't know, potentially beat the Sabres, but I can't with the Blues. This is just so frustrating. And for all of you, I just ask one question. Do you think this team has it in them at all? Because it's the same thing. You just see no energy at all on the ice for periods at a time. And it always comes down to the scramble, the last minute. It's just such a frustrating sequence of Blues hockey that we are used to seeing now more so than ever. And the frustration is so real. So real. The first period was awesome, okay? And I want to reiterate that. I mean, with Schenner scoring and then Snuggie, like it was such good hockey in the first period only. Other than that, I mean, it was just very, very ugly. It was all Buffalo, so I have to give Buffalo some credit. It's all Buffalo. But man, like this game, we're going to talk more about it tomorrow, but this game was frustrating for me as a fan to watch, and even doing this podcast right now, I am frustrated beyond belief. I want to talk to all of you, my friends. Hi, how are you? About Gametime. But I also want to talk a little bit about the fact that Jordan Binnington didn't get a start in net tonight against Buffalo. And what does that mean? Don't read too much into it or read too much into it. Well, let's talk a little bit about my friends over at Gametime. There's nothing like being near the ice during hockey season. The speed, the hits, the atmosphere, it's unmatched. Watching a home game is great, but being in the building is a completely different experience. The only thing that used to get in the way was actually getting tickets, long queues, and endless screens and prices changing at checkout. That's why the Gametime app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NHL tickets and experiences in just a few taps. One of the things I love about Gametime is the zone deals. They are clutch. You choose the section and Gametime picks the seats and you save even more. Seeing NHL tickets available now for only as low as $25 makes it so easy to plan a game night. I had a couple of you tell me that you actually purchased tickets using my code that I'm going to tell you in a second for only $10 each. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime and download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. We just recapped the Blues' frustrating 4-2 loss to the Buffalo Sabres. Sabres 1 game away from beating a franchise record. And for the Blues, another 2 points that they so desperately need if they want to be in contention at all, because unbelievably, it's still a possibility, which is insane, but just shows you how weak the West has been. Jordan Binnington did not get the start tonight. It was Joel Hofer. And I know that there might be some of you that might be wondering, what's going on? Why isn't Binnington starting in net? I suspect that they want to save him for Colorado, which is going to be on New Year's Eve. But at the same time, I mean, this is a real issue, at least for me, because this is what's going on, right? Quote, "We're just going to roll with the hot hand and see how it goes," Coach Montgomery said after practice yesterday. "We're going game by game." And I do understand that Binnington has been playing that well. But at the same time, Hofer helped the Blues secure a win on Saturday against the Predators, the 3-2 win. And I understand going with a hot hand, but at the same time, what kind of message does that send out? Quote, "It's way too much to read into that because it's a long season. I think for parts of last season, Hofer was playing better than Binnington. And who did we play in the playoffs? Binnington. And he was really good. It's way too early. It's a long season. There's a lot of big games ahead. So it's just going to depend on how we continue to build." Quote, Jim Montgomery. So my question is, are we just going to wait to use Binnington for only the big games and use Joel Hofer for every other game? Because if so, that makes no sense. And this brings me to my point. Why is it, and just hear me out, we go with the quote-unquote hot hand when it comes to goalies, but not for lines? Why is it that you think playing Binnington every so often is more beneficial than having him consistently in the lineup? Maybe you should think about trading Binnington if you're not going to play him as often. And I say this because it's such a mental game when you're playing in net, and to not have Jordan Binnington, who helped the Blues win a Stanley Cup, who was excellent in the playoffs last year, who helped Team Canada win the Four Nations face-off, and you're not letting him get the start of net against a team like Buffalo. I'm not a fan of that. I'm not. I find it disrespectful. I really don't like it. And I feel like enough is enough. Why are we not giving our respect to Jordan Binnington? I want to know. And I think that this kind of goes to show what the Blues are this season. They're a team that has no identity. Because if you don't even know if your starting goalie should be starting in games, that's an issue. That's a really, really, really big issue. Oh, I just got some really good news. I have to tell my mom if she's awake. Sorry, this is so random. I checked my email thinking that the Blues media was going to send us something, and it just ended up being really good news, and I have to tell my mom. Okay, that's what's up. But anyways, see how I get so happy over little things in life? That's because the Blues took away things. Anyways, going back to my main point, she's probably sleeping. It's late. And then I'm like the psychopath who's like cringing about Blues hockey. But with Jordan Binnington, do I think that he is going to be the starting goalie for Team Canada? The answer is yes. We did a whole episode on this. Do I think that he's going to get more starts wearing the blue net than Joel Hofer? Probably not. I mean, based off of what's going on right now and things that I am seeing on the ice when it comes to practices or, after practices when Coach Montgomery speaks or during the games, I think that there is a favoritism towards Joel Hofer. And I do think that Coach Montgomery is going to end up playing him more than Binnington. Do I think it's right? Do I think it's fair? Absolutely not. Do I think that this is something that's sustainable? Absolutely not. But do I think that this is something that's going to continue to happen? Absolutely. I don't think we're going to see Jordan Binnington get consistent starts again wearing the blue note, at least for this season. Is it because the Blues said, what, season's done, so we're just not going to overplay Binnington and risk injury? Maybe. Is it for a trade? Maybe. I don't know. But am I frustrated that we're not seeing him play? Yeah. He is one of the main reasons why I tune in. I mean, I tune in regardless, but I love Jordan Binnington. So it is frustrating. I do think that Joel Hofer has been playing very good hockey. But man, I just really want to see Jay Binnington, and I am incredibly frustrated. I'm incredibly annoyed. And I just feel like if you put Jordan Binnington in net tonight, maybe he would have been able to make that save on Zach Benson's goal. That was a very good goal, though. I'll give Zach Benson credit on that. And he's a very good player. I mean, that's the guy that I wanted. I've talked about Zach Benson on this podcast numerous times because that's how badly I wanted him as a Blue, actually. So I might have actually made like 10 episodes on him if we're being honest, but not surprised. Some game reactions from all of you. The Sabres could be stopped if we played a full 60 minutes. Last two periods looked awful and unmotivated. And Brandon, I 100% agree. This is something that I said on Twitter at Locked On Blues. It's that, see, the Blues are making me sick. But it's that the first period was a great amount of effort. The second period and third period were horrible. And they looked so slow after Benson's goal in the final frame. And it looked like they had no energy, no juice, no fight. And that's an issue because you had majority of the period to respond to that goal. And instead, they were just playing slow and lackadaisical hockey. It was boring hockey. It was bad hockey. And Buffalo, I mean, to their credit, they were taking shots on goal. The shots were going right into Joel Hofer's glove, so they weren't going to get in the back of the basket, but they ended up finding a way with that empty netter. But still, I mean, this is a Blues team that was unmotivated and didn't play well. And Robert Thomas, I mean, I have to tell you, I am such a big Robert Thomas fan. And I have gone on, I mean, well, no, the new intro's not in yet. I have a new intro that Robert Thomas did for me for the podcast. But on Twitter, my bio says it's Robert Thomas season because it's always RT season. This season, I know that, he hasn't been as great. I know, he was out for a little bit with injury. Like, I know Robert Thomas has so much potential to be a superstar in this league, and I stand behind that statement. But what I will say is there was a couple of times where he actually had some breakaways and he could have scored a shorthanded goal numerous times throughout the contest. It didn't connect, but listen, I'll give credit to where credit is due. I am still proud of the effort that I do see in moments like that. Now, I'm not proud of the game. I'm disappointed, but I am proud in those moments where we see bits and pieces of the Blues hockey that we're used to see. So this segment actually is for Adam Juracek, who is a prospect, a defensive prospect that we drafted 2024 NHL entry draft. I actually interviewed him, and you can see that interview right here on YouTube at Locked on Blues. I was actually the first person to ever interview him one-on-one, so that was my big flex. Well, interview him one-on-one while he was a Blue because he just got drafted and I was like one of the only people there. So anyways, Adam Juracek, enough about my flex. It was also his 18th birthday the day of the draft. So that's pretty cool for him. Okay, anyways, Adam Juracek goes in between the legs for an overtime win for his team Czech over Finland. Oh man. I mean, the video was circulating on social media. What a goal. What a feed. Everything about it looked insane, okay? Sorry, I'm still sick. But this was such a good goal. And it just goes to show you that this is going to be a player that's going to elevate the Blues so much in a few years. I still think that he's 1 or 2 years away, most likely 2 years away. And it's not a diss. I think that sometimes we rush the development of certain players just because we're quote unquote desperate. I think with Adam Juracek, you got to let him cook. You got to let him heat up. And when he's ready to eat, that's when you bring him in. He is such a speedy player. He has such a good hockey mind. And you might say, Haley, why did he fall to 16th overall? Because he was dealing with an injury. I mean, guys fall all the time when it comes to draft order and rank because of injuries. Because then other teams are like, well, we don't want to wait, or maybe this guy's injury prone, you name it. I said it before we drafted Adam Juracek because that's who I wanted. I said, this is going to be the golden egg of the draft that's going to be hiding in the middle. And guess what? We got him. Now, I will say, though, as I'm like still choking away, that when it comes to Adam Juracek, not that I'm like concerned with injury, right? But I just need him to be healthy. Okay? No more injuries, but no, tonight was really good for Juracek and check. Juracek, check. Funny because he's on check. But, okay. Yay. Another prospect, and I'm so glad, Brandon, you were on this chat because this was also something that I had in my notes I'm going to pull up right now, and it's because of Justin Carbonneau. So for those that don't know what's going on, we have our World Juniors going on, and this is something that is interesting because Justin Carbonneau, in my opinion, and this is who we drafted this year. Again, that interview was on my YouTube channel here in Locked on Blues. But I kind of question a couple of things about this because Justin Carbonneau, right? He he's a player that has a lot of potential, okay? And he's a player that I personally like a lot. I mean, he cried when he found out that he was going to be a Blue. I mean, this is a player that worked really hard and a player that, in my opinion, is hard on himself because he's so motivated. And with him not getting on to Team Canada, I do think that this is going to be extra motivation for him. I know that he has to work on stuff defensively, and I've talked about that. And I was looking actually at my notes from training camp. And when I had on the talented Mike Mayer on, um, we talked about his work that he needs to improve on, and a lot of it was defensively. And this ain't the NHL. I mean, man, it isn't easy for these forwards because there's expectations of them being defensemen as well, even though they're forwards. It's like a crazy system. But I think that this doesn't speed motivation for Justin Carbonneau. And he's still a very talented young player. And I have all the faith that he's going to do well. Getting drafted 19th overall and having talks and conversations of should he make the team. I mean, that is a testament to who he is as a player. So while I am frustrated for him, I also know that this is going to be great motivation for him. And I have all the faith, seriously, I do, that he's going to be maybe not a superstar, but he's going to be a bright point for the Blues' organization. All right. Well, with me not really being able to breathe, um, because I'm still sick, I'm going to peace out on this episode, take some more medicine, and then tomorrow we're going to talk more about basically everything that's going on with the Blues, and maybe we'll dive into some more prospects and some other topics that I want to bring up prior to New Year's Eve, where the Blues play their final game of 2025. Isn't it funny, though, that they had the Winter Classic on New Year's Eve of last year, and now it's like, yeah, and now it's going to be on the 2nd. It's kind of weird, right? I don't know. The NHL is weird, in my opinion. All right. I will talk to you all tomorrow. And like always, like we always say, let's go Blues.